everybody. Hi, I hope everybody's feeling good. New start of the week. Hello, hello, hello. Alrighty. Hey guys, I have exciting news. I just took a class on the weekend. It was a bookbinding class. And do you know this feeling when you learn something that you've always wanted to learn and finally the moment is there? So I kind of want to start today's session with telling you if there is something you would love to learn and you have the opportunity this year, just do it. It is so fabulous. I mean, I just almost feel like I have this new energy. It was truly amazing. It was also a lot of work. Holy moly. I honestly thought I had a lot of work making my own watercolors, but bookbinding, you guys, it takes forever. And then the waiting time in between when you glue everything and you press it overnight. Oh my goodness. But absolutely worth it. So that's my initial question for you guys. Is there something that you've been wanting to learn for a long time? And let me know what that is, and let's share here. So for me, as I said, it was bookbinding, and I think it just goes well with the fact that I'm a watercolor paint maker. Yeah, it's just something where I thought, I would really love to learn that. So let me show you what I made. So this is one of the books. And you know, it's also interesting. I made this painting, or actually it's a print where I put leaves on the wet watercolor. I made this years ago, and it was a large sheet of paper, and I never knew what to do with it. It was hanging in my studio, and I was really at a loss what to do with it. So finally, you know, I found this thing where I can just use the sheet of paper, and then I put some handmade kadi paper inside, and I just used the packaging from the paper as an end paper here. And then I also used the consent in there, so it's pretty wild. I have all the papers mixed in there. So this is not like, you know, the classic bookbinding. This is chaotic Keiko bookbinding, but hey, I mean, right? It's my book. I can do what I want. And then I made another one. This is actually the first one I made. This is just a sketchbook with drawing paper. So not watercolor paper, just drawing paper. Look at this cute. It's so cute, this paper. And this one I actually gifted to my husband because he likes to draw as well. And I kind of wanted to give my first ever, you know, sketchbook to somebody special. So he got it. All right, you guys. I'm going to turn the camera around now because I have your comments on my iPad, but I can't see them. So I kind of want to start chatting with you guys. All right. You know what's going to happen. It's going to be a bit shaky. I apologize. I'm going to take okay, one of these days, I know I keep promising that I will set up a new concept here so I can do all this without the shakes. Oh, and can we just please look at this extremely cute painting here? This was a happy mail I received from Switzerland. There were paintings and there was chocolate. Absolutely made my week. Okay, so alrighty. Let me just look at the iPad and your comments for a second. Hello, hello. Hi, Lisa, Debbie, Sylvie. Oh, everybody's here. Alina, Kerstin, Ulrike. Hello, hello. Don't hesitate to comment. Seriously, guys. It's, you know, unser wöchentliches Klassentreffen. You can comment both in German and English. So whatever is easier for you, it's fine. Okay, let me put my sketchbooks to the side. And as I said, I would love to know what would be one thing you would love to learn this year. And honestly, it doesn't matter if it's totally, you know, a really big thing too, because we can all dream, right? Okay, today I'm gonna go back to using my friend Denise's handmade sketchbook, you know, one of my Aloha ambassadors. So this is, first of all, this is one of her paintings that she turned into the book cover, which I find is just a brilliant idea. And then this cool stitching. This is next on my list. I would love to learn how to make like an open spine like this. I just find this so beautiful. Okay, and today we're going to paint a coral reef. So maybe if you think of a coral reef, this is not the first thing that comes to mind for you. But let me tell you how I had this idea. So here in Hawaii, when you go diving or even when you just go snorkeling, there are a lot of areas where the lava gets really rough. And even if you're in the water and you're looking all at the fish, it's very fascinating how many ragged edges there are and how many contrasts you can find in the water. There is, you know, dark areas where the rocks are almost black looking and then the light filters into the water from above. So you have these beautiful light glittering spots in the water as well. And I kind of tried to capture this in this week's painting. However, I want to also emphasize that you can paint whatever you want for this challenge. There is no limitations on colors. Choose your own colors. You can use your own reference picture. You can do a fantasy painting. You can actually also just paint a few corals and animals that you like in the ocean. So feel free. I would just encourage you to use both watercolors and colored pencils as your medium because that's what is the current medium for Aloha 24 January. I'm still in last year. Okay. So, let me just quickly say something about today's supplies. Ooh, and I just looked over to the chat and I saw that Katrin says she would love to learn how to write calligraphy with the pointed pen. Are you doing like lettering usually, Katrin? Because if you're already into lettering with brush pens or even with a regular brush, then you already know the movements to shape the letters, and I think you'll have the pointed pen down pretty quickly. If you're more into painting usually, then that's learning the movement of calligraphy. That's a whole new chapter, and it's gonna take quite a while, but it's really fun. So I mean, I started my recent art journey with lettering and calligraphy, and then kind of moved into painting. That's kind of where I'm stuck now. Oops, I'm so sorry. This was not intentional. Hold on. So right now I think I'm this year trying to find a good marriage between lettering and painting in my art practice. you know, something where I could combine the two a little more or more often. Okay. Oh, and Ulrike says she would love to try pottery on a wheel. Oh yeah, that's one of my, maybe next year for me. I'm actually happy if I can create a little wonky cup just by hand building. The pottery wheel for me, you guys, it's a disaster. The last time I tried it, I don't know, 30 years ago, the whole thing came off the wheel and it just flew off the wheel. That was back in high school. I was almost in tears. It was really terrible. So this year I'm gonna stick to paint making and bookbinding, I think. Okay, let me quickly explain the steps we're gonna do today. So if you guys have already looked at my step-by-step tutorial, we will do this a little differently today. If you remember, in the step-by-step tutorial, I first painted the inside here and I left everything white. However, today we're gonna start with painting the whole background in this very light blue teal color, let this dry, and then continue painting the other coral rocks. So this is more of a negative space painting technique. The reason why I'm doing this like this today is so that I can avoid having these little white edges. I'm not sure if you can see those. So here, for example, it's absolutely legit to paint it in the way that I showed you in the step-by-step tutorial, but you have to kind of make sure that you go in with a really fine brush and, you know, work on those details. If you paint the whole thing in layers, there won't be, you know, there won't be any issues with white borders or edges or gaps. That's why I want to do it like this today. So this will be the first steps, painting everything in this light color. We're gonna leave white for the 3 or 4 biggest fish here, just because one of them has a little, you know, like white inside. You could theoretically also really just paint everything without leaving white for the fish, because it's gonna be such a light blue color that if you paint the fish, it's gonna still show up. But, you know, just for learning purposes, let's try and paint around those fish. And then we're gonna paint this layer next here, and then the indigo layer, let everything dry again, and then we're gonna go in and draw the details with colored pencil. Okay, let's get started. Okay, I'm looking over to the chat, and hi Sabrina. Sabrina is gonna take a lettering class next month. Ooh, yeah, I would love to see you combine lettering and painting. I think that would look really good. Thank you, Susan. All right. As for the shape, honestly, you guys can just pretty much do free shapes with these rocks. This is not something that, you know, I mean, you can of course just use my template, but all you really need to do today when it comes to the shape of the rocks is leave some space in the center so we can, you know, shape the rocks around that. And if you can, just try to make it an interesting shape. But honestly, if you want to do kind of like a circle shape, that would be cool too. That would almost be like looking through a door keyhole. Okay, so as you see, I didn't make a pencil sketch. I'm really just filling out a rectangle here with my light teal color. This color is called Ice Queen. And you can use any type of light teal color or a light blue for this step. All right. And I have evenly spread all the paint here on the paper. However, I'm rinsing my brush now, and I'm gonna go back in there to create a lighter value here on top. So I'm just taking up the paint with my moist brush again. So later on we'll have the impression that the light is coming from the top and it's shining into the water. I'm not sure you can see that. That's why I'm trying to explain it while I'm doing it, because this is such a subtle change in the painting. If you don't want to do this technique, you can of course also, while you apply the paint, just apply less paint here in one area, so that you'll have this impression of light coming in, filtering in through the water surface. Okay, I think I kind of stopped talking about my supplies, didn't I? Okay, let's do that again. Just because I forgot. I get so distracted today. I'm sorry, you guys. So this is Denise's handmade sketchbook with arches paper, or arche as they say in France. This is a ceramic palette. Yeah, I kind of want to keep this color because my friend mixed it the other day and it's so gorgeous. So that's why I didn't wash it. I usually always wash my palettes right away. I have 5 colors that I will use today. Bright yellow. This is a kind of like a primary red. You can also just use a regular red. It really doesn't matter. Bright green, indigo. This is a synthetic indigo, and the light teal color. The names are Ko'oko'olau, Awapuhi, Kupukupu, Kohola, and Ice Queen. But seriously, just use whatever paint you have. And then I will use some fun colored pencils. So these ones here, look how cool these are. These are Caran, and they were part of Sabrina's Happy Mail to me. So I'm gonna use the pink today, and you know, some different ones. She also sent these really cool metallic watercolor pencils, also by Caran. I think they're called Fun Colors Metallic. And yeah, I'll go through those later when we're at this stage where we're gonna do the details with colored pencils. So whatever color pencils you have, color-wise, I'm gonna do red, yellow, teal, and indigo with colored pencil. Then I have just been using one of my favorite brushes. This is a mop brush size 8 by Boesner. Boesner is a German company. It's kind of like an art store comparable to the American Blick or Michaels. So they have their own line of brushes, and I particularly love this one because it holds so much water and has a really nice pointy tip. And then for the details, I'm gonna use maybe even a smaller size. This is a size 3 round brush, but I might grab even a smaller one later, size 2 or 1. If you like, of course, feel free to use a pencil. I'm gonna do a lot today freehand, but yeah, you can absolutely use a pencil to draw in the outlines of the coral reef. Okay. All right. You know what I just realized? As I was painting, I did tell you that I'm gonna leave white space for the fish, didn't I? And I did not. So I guess I'm going to show you how to paint in the fish later, even though I already put down the first layer like this. Okay, I'm gonna be gone for half a minute to dry this layer with my hair dryer. I'll be right back. Okay, I hope this is enough. I mean, this paper is absolutely fantastic, but it takes quite a while to dry. All right. Ah, hi Denise. Hello, hello. I'm using your book again. Yay. Ooh, Denise, did you see the books? Were you just coming into the live stream now? I'm so proud of the books I made. And you know, especially when somebody is a bookbinder, then I'm like, look what I made. Just like a little kid. All right, so. Oh, good. Oh, hold on. Okay, so Denise said she did not see my books, so I'm sorry, guys. I'm just gonna show. I'm gonna show them off real quick one more time. Here they are. So Denise, they taught me how to make the closed spine technique. Man, it took the whole weekend. I mean, it was like 12 hours and then drying time and pressing time. So it's insane the amount of work. Yeah, I mean, as is the case with everything handmade, you know, you only realize 100% for real how much time it takes when you try it yourself. I mean, I knew that it takes a lot of time and diligence, but when you try it for the first time, I mean, wow, I really felt it. It's crazy work, but absolutely satisfying. Okay. Sabrina. Thank you so much, Sabrina. I'm afraid this one's not for sale, but I mean, you know, I might look into making more of those in the future. But as I said, takes me a weekend to make two, so I don't think I'm gonna be able to start a big production here. Okay. Merci, Denise. So you probably can hardly see what I'm doing here. I'm just pretty much very lightly drawing in the shapes of some of my fish here. Pretty much just, yeah. Here, maybe another one. You don't have to go into detail with this part. This is just a little indicator where I want to put them later. And let's draw in some of the coral rocks. As I said before, you can go totally wild here with this part. You can choose your own shapes. But for the purposes of today's session, I'm just gonna stick to the design I made earlier. Okay, and always remember, as soon as you have pencil on watercolor, and you paint over it with watercolor, no way can you erase those pencil lines. So just stay really light, or take a soft eraser and go over your pencil lines one more time to make them almost invisible. Let's see. I don't think I've actually ever tried to erase pencil lines on top of a layer that's already been painted. Or at least right now I can't remember. Let's try that. If I can ever open this this container with my kneaded eraser. Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay, that that was tricky. Okay, let's do some rolling. Huh. Oh, that works really well. Oh, good. Okay. Lesson learned today. You can roll your kneaded eraser over your pencil marks even when you have already painted underneath it. Pretty cool. Okay, very good. I'm looking over at the comments and seeing that Sabrina wants me to host a paint making and bookbinding class. I think that would probably take a week. Servus Tanja. Oh, ja Mai. Ja hoi. All right, you guys. So I'm going to change up the whole thing today. So we're going to do another layer of the same color. I know I didn't say that in the beginning, but because I forgot to paint around the little fishes here, I really want to show you how that would work. Okay, grab some of your light teal color and water it down a little bit in your palette, and then we're just gonna go over the whole thing again, but we're gonna paint around the fish. So this is what you call negative space painting technique. It's called negative space painting technique because you're painting around the objects, in this case the fish. So you're not painting what's called the, positive space, which would be the fish, but you're painting the space around them, the negative space. And you can actually paint whole landscapes this way by just adding layer by layer and painting around the objects. And then this way you create depth in the painting that's really tricky to achieve otherwise. However, it's kind of difficult to plan your painting so that you get all the layers right. So I've seen people do drawings first, sketches first, and then actually put numbers in the different areas where they paint, layer 1, layer 2, layer 50. So it's a bit tricky to really keep track of all these layers. So I try to keep my negative space paintings simple, just a few layers. Okay, once you have down the second layer, rinse your brush again, clean it off a little bit with a paper towel, and then just pick up some of that paint here, just like we did in the first layer, here at the top of the painting where the light filters through the water. So this is going to be a very subtle effect. And again, I apologize if you can't see this here on camera. Okay. Yeah, it's hardly visible. But once it dries, it will make a difference. You will see more white of the paper shine through this area where you remove the pigments. And the good thing with water is that you don't have to be very exact with this technique, because the water could come from, the light could come from this angle or that angle, and because it refracts in the water and it bounces off the coral reefs, you know, the lighting could be really funky and it would still look okay. Unless the light comes from the bottom. That would be kind of weird. Then you would be in a different realm altogether. Okay, I'm looking over to the chat. And Denise Art Moments says that she taught a bookbinding workshop online. Wow. So how long was that bookshop? Was that a whole weekend? I can't even imagine doing this online. I mean, I was so glad I did it in person because there were so many things that I just didn't really understand at first. So, however, I think what would be good online is that you can really point the camera and everybody can see like up close what you do. That was a bit tricky in person because we were 8 students and then, you know, we had to gather around the table and it was a bit tricky to see the details sometimes, I have to say. All right, you guys, I'll be back again in 1 minute. I'm gonna dry this layer with my hairdryer. Be right back. Yeah, it still feels a bit moist. Let's see. I mean, I'm gonna see very quickly if it's dry enough or not. So for the next layer, let's look over to the finished painting. The next layer will be the coral reefs that are a bit lighter than the foreground. So this is gonna be last. And we're gonna just do this next. And for this color, I'm going to mix my light teal with a tiny bit of indigo. I mean, really just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, because this is a very strong color. It doesn't matter if you use real indigo or synthetic indigo. This is a very strong tinting color, so you really only need a dab. If you don't want to do color mixing today, you can of course just use a different kind of blue. For example, Pacific would work great for this step. I believe that's actually the color I used in the step-by-step tutorial. Let me set this down here. Hey, I got glitter on my page. How did that happen? Glitter, glitter. Okay. Oh, bye, Lisa. Thanks for joining. See you next time. Okay. Oh, and I see that Carolyn comments on the birds. Yeah. The bird sounds in the background. Isn't that lovely? So I don't have windows here in my house. We live single wall construction, and instead of windows, we only have mosquito screens. So they let in sound, you know, I mean, the sound just comes through. It's like living outdoors, pretty much. It's good and bad. I mean, whenever my neighbors do construction work or something of that sort, you know, I have no ways of like shutting the window, closing the window. It's just loud. But I definitely feel immersed into nature, being in this open space living construction here. All right, let me just quickly explain what I'm doing here. I mixed my slightly darker paint. It is just slightly darker than the background. And now I'm going all around and painting the entire rocks that I drew in with lightly with pencil previously. So now what we're doing is we're painting around the part of the water that we want to keep light later. So when you look at the finished painting, this would be this area. So we're just gonna paint around, including those coral reefs here. At this point, I can tell you that even if you did not mix a slightly darker paint, just by layering the same color again and again, you know, on top of itself, you will create darker layers and darker shades. But I just want to help things along a little bit, and that's why I mixed in a little bit of a darker color, in this case, the indigo. If you can't see your pencil lines anymore, no worries. Just create some funky looking coral or rock shapes. And what you should see at this point is that the fish are the lightest color. Then the area around the fish is the second lightest color. And now the rocks here are the darkest color in the painting. So this is the whole concept of negative space painting technique. You just continue painting around and around your actual objects and create in darker layers. And as I said before, you could do this way more complicated by leaving other spaces lighter colored and then going over and around them and even overlapping. But it really gets so tricky keeping track of all the different layers. And it's happened to me before that I tried this and I just painted over an area that was supposed to be not painted, and it can be a bit frustrating. And that's why I like to just keep these kind of paintings on a fairly easy level with just a few layers. And as I mentioned in the beginning, you do not have to do this technique in order to create this effect. The only reason I'm doing it this way today is to avoid the white gaps that I had in my original painting, where I just pretty much painted every section by itself and not doing the layers like I'm doing today. Okay, and it's gonna be another round of hairdryer drying time. I apologize that it's so much hairdryer time today and you have to listen to that sound, but I'll be right back. Hope this is enough. Oh yeah, that's looking pretty good. Okay. Now I'm gonna do the last layer here. And in the original painting, I did it with just indigo. However, let's do something a bit different today. I'm gonna mix my light teal color and use some indigo. So not going to use the indigo just by itself, but mixing it a bit with the color I used for the other two layers here. So in general, if you use color mixes in your painting, it will create a bit more of a coherent color scheme in your painting. Or let's say you do a whole series. You do a series of, I don't know, 3 or 4 paintings, and you keep using the same colors and you mix other color shades with the basic colors that you use, then it'll create a very nice, coherent overall look. I think that's why a lot of artists tend to just use primary colors and mix all their shades themselves, the purple and the greens. Or maybe some of them have extra orange and extra green. But yeah, a lot of painters just use very few colors and mix everything themselves. But of course, you know, as a paint maker, I just want to use all my colors. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I paint on the outside of my painting and I leave some of the previous layer visible so that it looks like those layers are stacked. It's kind of like I'm in the cave underwater and I'm looking outside to where the light filters in. So just make sure when you paint this layer that you leave a few places here, here, and here where your previous layer shines through. And of course, please feel free to use a different brush. I mean, I'm still using my large size 8 mop brush for this because it has such a great pointy tip. But as always, I want you to feel most comfortable, which means you can change brushes and brush sizes as often as you want. Especially if you are somebody who loves to paint details, you might already be painting those edges with a size 1 brush. Okay. Oh, hi, Michelle. Michelle was in the class with me on the weekend. This was great fun. I mean, doing a class is great, but if you have, you know, like your good friend coming to the class with you, it's like the best. Okay, so what does Mishi want to know? Does it matter if you paint the corals first versus the lava tube opening? And you mean which corals? Those ones? I don't really, I'm sorry, I don't get the question. Like, you mean if you could do it the other way around? Like paint the dark layer first and then go, yeah, of course. I mean, you can do that. I hope that that's the question. So you could start with the dark layer and then just paint the lighter layers first. However, the reason why I don't really like doing that too much is because you're probably going to end up smearing the edges of your darker and lighter layer. So it would be kind of like working you'd have to work really exact and going, you know, into the detail here. And I personally really think that working this way from light to dark creates some super beautiful and overall very even layers. So I know that one of my ambassadors, Kat McCardle Art, she actually does her negative space paintings exactly this way. She starts with the dark layer and then she moves on to the light layers. So it's absolutely possible. Maybe it's really a matter of preference and practice, but for me personally, I prefer it this way. Okay, I just had to mix a little bit more of my dark color here. Whenever you paint these kind of things, make sure you mix enough paint. Just because if you run out of paint while you're painting the layer, it will look a bit different. So the color will be off by a little bit, and it, you know, not that it really matters that much, but it's always a good idea if you do this kind of painting to pre-mix a lot of color or enough color for each layer. Okay, so this is layer number 3 or 4. Actually stopped counting at this point. Okay, now that I'm looking at this, how about we do yet another layer? I think that would look pretty good. Unfortunately, it means I have to do more hair drying. Hair drying my paper, I mean. But yeah, let's put in yet another layer, which means we're gonna go in with the pure indigo and then just go around adding one more layer. So we'll have even more depth in this painting. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, that dried pretty quickly. That's good. Okay, how's everybody getting along with the layers? I hope it's not too tricky and you're enjoying the process. Yeah, okay. Just looking over to the chat, and Julia wants to know if there is a Gockel. Gockel. That's a great German word. Der Gockel kräht. Und ja, das ist ein Gockel. So it's a rooster. We have 2 roosters. They're called Fred und Egon. They are brothers, and they like to crow. Well, one starts and the other one has to chime in. So this is just one of the brothers. But yeah, at night when the moon is bright, and I'm not kidding, I know that it rhymes, but they love to get going at night. And then they both do that. Okay, so I mixed in a whole bunch of indigo into the color that I already had here on my palette. So even though this is not 100% pure indigo right from the pan, it is, you know, looking pretty much like indigo. It's very dark. And now I'm just going to go over certain parts of my painting again. Now, if you do the exact same line as the previous layer, I encourage you to paint a little bit over it. So a little bit outside of the line. Just a tiny, tiny little bit. Like we're talking like a millimeter or so. So this is just to prevent the layer underneath shining through and creating kind of like a double edge here, like a fuzzy double edge. You can see what I mean when I show you the detail here. I'm gonna get a bit closer. You see how the previous layers are shining through? So I really like that effect. I don't really care about this, especially not on the outside of my painting. But if you want to avoid that, just make sure you paint the topmost layer across or, on top of all those previous layers. Now here for the bottom, we're just gonna go and leave out some, or not paint over this part of the previous layer. And see how nicely it now stacks. You have different parts of the coral reef showing up in a really beautiful way when you paint in this technique. And when you look at this whole thing, I mean, you can imagine painting all sorts of landscapes this way. You could do mountains, you can do forests, you can do foliage. Okay, I have a really, really crazy little baby dog racing around my chair right now. Money! Money, what you doing? Huh? Oh, are you bored? Are you bored? I know. I'm sorry. I'm gonna play with you in a minute, okay? No. Okay, go play with your toy. Go, go. Okay. Do any of you guys' pet start acting up once you sit down to paint? I kind of feel like the dogs are just, they know when I want to have quiet and peace and just sit down and paint. They just start playing like crazy. They make all these sounds too usually. Today it's a bit more quiet, but yeah. It happens very often that I get these cute little tiny dog playing sounds in the background whenever I do a live stream. So Michelle says, oh yeah, oh that's right, you're working, right? And Checo's jumping around. That's her dog. Sabrina says that her cat she sits in your paints? You mean like literally in your like paint palette or on top of it? No, are you serious? Like she jumps on the table and sits in your paint? Oh my goodness. My cats don't do that. I guess I should be thankful that at least my cats don't sit in my paint. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I mean, I have this one instance where one of my cats walked down in the studio on my table. He must have, because one of his paws was covered in orange powder, which was the pigment that I used that day to make. Apologies, you guys. I think I just had a low power warning. That's why you couldn't hear me. I'm gonna plug in the cable. Okay. So I think whatever I said in the last minute or so, you probably didn't catch, but I was just referring to a little anecdote where one of my cats stepped in one of my pigments and then had an orange paw, and I had to wash his paw, and he hated me for 2 days because, you know, cats and water. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh my goodness. Andrea is here. Hello. Aloha. So the name you see there, Andrea, that's my bookbinding teacher. Thank you so much, Andrea. I just truly enjoyed the class so much. You are so wonderful. Really lucky to have you at the Donkey Mill Art Center. Okay. All right, you guys. So for this part, if you wanted to be on the safe side, you can go and dry this layer again with your hairdryer. But I'm just going to be careful and kind of, you know, like work around it without touching it. All right, and now that you created all your layers, we can go over and we can go on and look at the details, which would be the different kind of plants and the little fishies in the water. Okay, and Jaya wants to share this tutorial with her kids. Yeah, of course. Everything I do is for share. Like, this is what I live for. I want to share. I want to paint with everybody and share everything I know with everybody. So, yes, yes, please do. That would be great. And you know, if you guys want to paint this with kids, you can simplify it a little bit. I mean, you don't have to paint like 8 layers, right? You can really do just 3 layers like I did in this one. Just start with the background and then do the next layer. Um, yeah, use a hair dryer because I know some kids, you know, it's difficult with the patience of waiting for the watercolor to dry. So hair dryer definitely helps with that. Yes, yes, and please take pictures. Ooh, I would love that. I'm excited. That's very exciting. Yay. All right. So for the next step, we're gonna paint our fishies. And if your background is fairly dark, then just mix a bit more of an opaque amount of watercolor paint. So you just want to use a little bit of water and use a lot of pigment to make it more opaque. And then you can go over your fish bodies here. As an alternative, you can already use colored pencils for this part. So especially if you have nice opaque colored pencils, then you can actually skip the watercolor part and just, you know, go straight in with your colored pencils. So I'm just going around and filling up the shapes here. All right. Okay, I have a question for you guys. So from all the motifs we painted this month, which one is your favorite? I would love to know. Just, you know, in general, and also, of course, for future challenges. It's always interesting for me to see which ones people love the best. So we had the turtle, the honu, we had the seahorse, and we had the monk seal. That was the first one. And today, you know, it's a bit more abstract, I guess, with the coral reef, but I was really wanting to show you guys the layering and, oops, oh, well, that was not intentional. My little yellow tang has a fancy little makeup streak on her cheek. So yeah, let me know which one was your favorite. And maybe also you have a favorite, but it didn't really turn out that well when you painted it, or not as you want it. Maybe you have a favorite painting that you did, which is not the same as your favorite motif. Just doing some very loose little fishy shapes here in the background. The further away, of course, the smaller the fishies get. All right, I think this is good for this part. Okay, Sabrina liked the seahorse and the coral reef. Alina is like, she can't choose because it's like choosing your favorite parent or internal organ. Oh gosh, you're so hilarious. I love your humor, Alina. And Julia says she loves all the themes or prompts, but today she's learning the most. Oh, that's wonderful to hear. I'm happy to hear that. Ulrike says the most challenging was the turtle. Oh, interesting. Was that also because of the details and the layering on top? The details in the shell and everything? Yeah, I mean, of course, you guys, I want to I want to challenge you too. It's, you know, shouldn't be too easy. But it's always important to me to try to find a balance between, you know, an approachable tutorial and something that challenges you. Because if it's too challenging, then it just sucks. I mean, you just want to give up. So that's, it's also the reason why I'm asking, so that for the future challenges, I have a better idea of, you know, the themes and what I can do. And along these lines, is there a technique that you would really love to learn? You can always feel free to text me and be like, hey Keiko, what about this? You know, I would love to learn this. And if I can do it, you know, that's the other thing. I truly cannot do all the techniques, of course, but I can try. Okay, as you can see, I switched to my colored pencils. This one was a Polychromos, yeah, Faber Castell Polychromos, regular, non-water soluble. I'd say it doesn't matter which kind you use for this step. You can use water soluble or not. Just remember, if you do the details for the fish and that layer is still wet, you have to be very careful with colored pencils in general, and I would not use the regular colored pencils on top of paper that is still wet because you will tear the surface. So if you want to go in and paint details or draw details in your fish, use a water-soluble colored pencil and just very gently go in and add details. Because the lead of water-soluble colored pencils is very soft, it's not going to destroy the paper unless, you know, you press down really hard. Can you guys see? Should I go a bit closer? Or is it okay? I mean, all I'm doing is just, you know, adding some fine lines to my little fishy friends here. Okay. Kind of just a bit randomly grabbing colors now. So the one I just used was a Caran museum aquarelle. That's a water-soluble one, and this is a Dürer ink tense. It's also water-soluble. I use for my other fishy here. Hi, Mom. So while I'm drawing, I'm just trying to keep an eye on the chat to see what you guys say. Always happy to see when my mom's online too, watching my class. Okay. So I think this fish is dry. So let's see if I can go in with my super fat, super neon. Gosh, I love this one especially. Thank you again, Sabrina. This was such a great surprise. So I can tell you now, I'm actually working on a whole video with the art supplies and actually also the candy that Sabrina sent me from Switzerland. I think it's gonna be a fun one. I mean, I'm trying to make it a fun video. It's kind of like an unpacking, testing the candy, and then painting with the art supplies video. I'm still working on it though, so it's probably gonna take another, I don't know, a few days till it's ready. The editing part is always the longest. Like the filming takes 30 minutes and then I edit for 2 days. Oh my goodness. Oh, Taka-chan. I love you too, Mom. Okay, I'm getting closer. I'm going closer. Just saw Susan asking to go closer, please. So I will do that. I hope this is better. Okay. So this is the fabulous Caran Fluo. I believe these are probably made for kids because of the size, the thickness. But must be the child inside of me. I absolutely love these really fat pens and pencils. Okay. So once your layers are dry, you can go in with a regular colored pencil without tearing the paper. And if you see that your color pencil is not leaving much of a mark, just try another one. And if you see that you don't have any good color pencil right now at hand, you can do all this with watercolor as well. You don't have to use the color pencil. I like it because it creates a different type of texture. And I find it really interesting that when in my paintings I have different textures going on. I kind of like that effect. I'm switching back to my Polychromos indigo, just adding a few more fun looking shapes here. I realize I actually didn't paint the fish peeping out from one of those rocks. Let me just add that little fish in real quick, picking up some green paint. And he's just peeking like this from behind one of those rocks. So because this is still really wet, I'm going to let this dry first. I'm going to go back to drawing in some details. Okay, I'm picking up my indigo pencil again, just going over all the layers, adding some random leaf shapes here. And how about another teal color? See, this is a Caran Pablo, so that's a regular non-water soluble color pencil. The reason why I have so many different brands of watercolor and regular color pencil is that for the longest time I really wasn't sure which one is my favorite, so I bought single colors of different brands, so sometimes just 3 colors or so to test them out. And now I'm stuck with a whole bunch of different color pencils, and they're all from different brands. I do have my favorites now, but of course, you know, I'm still gonna use everything I have. And the way you find your favorite art supplies is, of course, not because somebody else says that that's the best, but, you know, choose them for what you like the best and what works best for you. Okay, I'm doing a bit of color mixing here, going over the little ferns and seaweeds with my teal pencil. And I'm peeking over to the chat. And Sabrina says that the metallic, oh yeah, the metallics. Hold on, go in with a metallic one. That's another one she sent me, also Caran. These are the fan color metallic. So these are pretty cool. These are water soluble metallic colored pencil. So it would be possible to go over these with water and then they would just blend in. So what I mean is you could draw with these and then paint over them with water, and it would actually pick up the pigment of the colored pencil, kind of like watercolors. But of course, because they're colored pencil, they're also really great for details. And they leave a very subtle metallic sheen. So it's not as strong as if you use metallic watercolors or metallic inks, but there's definitely a bit of a sheen. And because I'm using a cold press watercolor paper here, you actually see a lot of texture. When you go over a whole area with a colored pencil like this, the texture is going to show up. I think this is very fitting for something that's rocky, like a coral reef. If you want to have a really an even stronger effect of this, you can go over at least some parts of your watercolor with the colored pencil and then create some really nice and expressive texture. You see this here? But honestly, this is a matter of preference. If you prefer your watercolors to be more smooth looking, then I would skip this step because it does really change the overall look and feel when you go over the whole thing with colored pencil. See all the texture? And you could have an even stronger effect, of course, if you used a different color. So if you go over a part that is dark blue and you use your neon, then look at that kind of texture. So again, this is really a matter of preference, and if you want to keep it simple, just keep it simple and just use watercolors. But I think it's always fun to at least try out some new techniques and see if you like them, or maybe you just like one aspect of that. So you know now how to paint rocks more easily. You put down a base layer of watercolor and then go over it with a colored pencil to create that structure and texture of a rock. Okay, so, and let's look at our little green fishy friend down here. I'm gonna use a water soluble colored pencil. This is yet another brand I have. This is a Faber Castell Albrecht Dürer. That's also a water soluble colored pencil. And these ones are very, very buttery and soft. So they do leave a lot of texture, very similar to the Derwent Inktense. I think they're kind of comparable in how soft and buttery they are. So not really good for very, very detailed work, but extremely good for texture. Alrighty, and here we go. Let me zoom out a little bit again. Okay, when you compare this with the actual tutorial that I made earlier, the step-by-step, you can see differences for sure. First of all, you see those striations here. So I created those by dropping in some paint while the layer was still, or the paper was still wet. I left this step out in this round. And there's less texture going on overall, which one of the reasons is that I used Caran XL watercolor paper, which is a bit more smooth than this one. But it's also that I didn't add any colored pencil on top of any of the flat layers. I only used the colored pencil here to draw in my seaweed and plant and some, you know, details in the fish. And this is kind of like how I want to keep my live streams going, that you know, you will maybe learn a little more or a little bit of a variation of the technique that I show you in the tutorial. As I said before, if you would like to learn something specific, or if you have ideas for themes and future challenges, please let me know. I'm always really happy to hear your suggestions and ideas. And I can already tell you a little surprise for next month. So we're gonna have a guest host again, so kind of like in the challenge last year. And next month's guest host is going to be Tanya, Miss Nice Day. Many of you know her already, I'm sure. So you guys can look forward to tutorials from her. And we're also going to do a live stream together. It's going to be in German though. Unfortunately, I apologize to our English-speaking friends here, but I will do my live streams in English. But there will be one that's going to be held in German at the end of the month. For all of you who do speak German, there will be a live stream with Tanya, not part of this challenge, just our monthly live stream here on YouTube every last Thursday of every month. So if you want to tune into that, it's going to be on the last Thursday this month, which I'm not sure which date that is exactly. But you can mark that in your calendar if you're interested in tuning in. Okay, let me just quickly turn the camera around again. Hold on. Just for a proper goodbye and send off. Okay, hold on. This is always the shaky part, and I don't want to press or push any buttons on my phone, so that's why it's always a bit of tricky part here. Okay. Yoo-hoo, yoo-hoo. Okay, let's turn this around. Hello, hello. I hope you enjoyed the session. All right, I wish you all a wonderful day or evening. And I say aloha, and I'll see you next time, next month, for a new round of the challenge. All right, bye.